This episode of Dispatches from Planet Albany is brought to you with support by New York State United Teachers, which represents more than 600,000 educators and school-related professionals in New York. Dispatches is also supported by the public affairs firm O'Donnell and Associates. For more information, check out o'donnellsolutions.com.
I've also declared war on potholes, so here's the first shot across the bow.
Well, as you know, with Planet Albany, there's always something that makes the planet turn.
And it's this amazing view of D.C., and Eddie Vedder comes out. And he goes, "You have a cigarette?" And I've never smoked in my life, but if I had, I wish that was the moment.
And this strategy takes us from potholes to knotholes.
I would like to say it was a pleasure, Mr. Kim. But I'm on the road.
I'm David Lombardo, and this is Dispatches from Planet Albany, a WCNY podcast about power and politics in New York. And we're checking back in again with Jasmine Gripper, the head of the Working Families Party in the Empire State, which recently decided not to back anyone in the Democratic primary for state comptroller, saying they couldn't rally around a consensus candidate. This comes a few months after the Liberal Third Party opted to sit out the Democratic primary for governor that had been brewing between Governor Kathy Hochul and Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, who subsequently dropped his gubernatorial bid. In light of the latest development, Jasmine is explaining the non-endorsement in the comptroller's race, talking about the state legislative races the WFP is hoping to influence, and what she's hoping for in the Senate Majority Leader's choice of a new number 2 in 2027. So when you and I talked in February, the Working Families Party had just punted on an endorsement in the Democratic primary for state comptroller. You said at the time that there wasn't really enough runway to assess the candidates properly. But fast forward 2+ months, and the party ultimately wasn't able to reach a consensus on an endorsement. How close, if at all, did any of the three candidates come to potentially getting your support?
We had a rigorous process, like we always do, and we're deeply grateful that all the candidates came in to seek the Working Families Party endorsement and believe in the value that the party adds to any statewide race. And, we did a lot of homework to examine the role of the comptroller. We did a deep dive in what the comptroller can and cannot do. Each candidate filled out our questionnaire. They all came in and sat for interviews. But in the end, the party was split. There was definitely a part of the party who knows Tom DiNapoli's history for working with the Working Families Party, for being one of the first statewide candidates to say to his base of voters, vote on the Working Families Party ballot line to help us gain ballot access. And so those Tom DiNapoli loyalists were pro Tom all the way. There were party affiliates and members who were, wooed by Raj. And they thought that he made a compelling argument and believed in what he was, talking about what the office could do and some of the creative ways to use the comptroller's office. And same with Drew, where Drew Warsaw, where candidates, people thought that his housing policy agenda was compelling, while also there were criticisms of all of the candidates, from who they take money from to what they've done in the past. And looking at their history. And so in the end, there just wasn't consensus from the party on getting behind any one candidate. And so we chose to not make an endorsement. And so
Did anyone have a plurality of the vote?
I think it was split. I actually don't remember how the vote shook out. That was 2 weeks ago. It feels like ages. But in the end, I think that we just couldn't come to consensus. And there was actually the consensus that people agreed upon was that the party should just stay out of the race and not make an endorsement.
You mentioned this idea of looking at what the comptroller can and cannot do, because when we've talked with these candidates, the challengers see a very expansive role for the comptroller and think it could be used much more aggressively than it has been since 2007, whereas the comptroller has said, if you want to impact PSC, serve on the PSC board. If you want to have XYZ impact, go run for that office. Did you come to any sort of conclusions about limitations on the comptroller's race as you did your analysis of its statutory and constitutional powers?
Yeah, we stayed grounded in the fact that the role of the comptroller, or one of the main roles of the comptroller, is maintaining a healthy pension fund. And that is a top priority. We also did challenge, how do you be an ethical partner in governing, and how do you make sure that we're leveraging the money, the large fund that New York has, to promote social good and well-being. And I think everyone had some interesting ideas about it, from even the current comptroller to those who were competing for the office. And, Tom DiNapoli talked about after Sandy Hook happened, I think it was one of the tragic gun shootings, the pension fund divesting from guns and gun manufacturing and, leveraging it for the social good. And then, people were talking about how we can invest in affordable housing. I don't think everything was pie in the sky. I think you look at the New York City comptroller right now, who has a really aggressive agenda on affordable housing and is making a big commitment. And so I think we did have to listen to some of the proposals from the challengers and, match that with what's allowable, while also to say to the current comptroller, you can be more creative. And so I do think there's a balance between people overpromising and also pushing the boundary of what's possible under the current conditions.
Was there any discussion with the incumbent comptroller about, hey, we'd love to make an endorsement of you, especially because you're probably going to win, but maybe if you made some public guarantees on some of these things where you haven't moved on in the past, and we could all come together as one right now? Was that a discussion on things like maybe join us on the increasing taxes campaign for the wealthy, or maybe talk about how you want to use the audit power, or maybe make some more concrete housing investments? Was there any sort of effort to get some sort of public guarantees from him?
We did talk to the comptroller and his staff about things that we thought the office could and should be doing a better job of, and where we wanted to see greater alignment. And those were good, productive conversations. And there were some places where we landed in clear agreement and alignment, some where it was mixed, and some where we didn't get as far as we wanted to go. And so, yes, absolutely. We are, we can always pick up the phone and call Tom. I will say that.
Can't email him, though.
Well, we talked to him on the phone, but whether it's me directly as a state director, or even some of our leaders who he's known for years, he has been accessible, and we have talked to him about his position and ways we think that he could be better using the office to help, govern for social good.
But no hostage video like 2018 with Cuomo.
No, we did not ask for a hostage video. That was not the request. For those who know the history of the party with Andrew Cuomo, we are in a much different relationship with Tom DiNapoli than we were ever with Andrew Cuomo.
Well, lastly on this front, at the end of April, there was some reporting by Politico about Comptroller hopeful Raj Goyal employing the same political consulting firm that the WFP uses. Was there any hangover from that reporting in the endorsement process, either as a backlash to him, or maybe a backlash to the backlash, or a backlash to the backlash to the backlash? Did that factor in any way? Did you feel like either Drew Warshaw lost support, or Raj Goyal gained support, or lost support, or Tom DiNapoli lost support? Did it have any impact with some of the way people thought about this race?
Not at all. I think we were more annoyed with the way the reporting was framed, as if we were doing something and that was kind of compromising
Did you feel like the reporting framed that? It seemed like they just sort of said, here's the thing, let the chips fall.
Yeah, I think the fact that they wrote it was like, why is this newsworthy in New York where there's a million other things to write about, and consultants across the political spectrum represent a number of clients. That's not unusual in New York politics. And so I think we were more annoyed about it than it actually influencing our process. And, our people, most of our people saw this story. I don't think it never even came up in our conversation during the endorsement process, and had no bearing in how we decided to move and make a decision.
For 50 years, New York State's Weatherization Assistance Program has kept families safe and lowered energy bills. Now Albany plans a 60% cut. Tell Governor Hochul and lawmakers restore 10% of HEAP funding for weatherization. Protect New York families now, paid for by the New York State Weatherization Directors Association.
Well, let's turn down ballot. I'm interested in the state legislature, and where do you see some of your best chances to reshape the state legislature or to keep growing your influence?
Yeah, the Working Families Party has been in New York politics for over 20 plus years. And so as a result of that, we have a strong number of champions and allies in both the Assembly and Senate. And we're proud to continue to grow that bench. WFP electeds in office. Our most exciting races are right now in the state Senate. We have 3 races that we're prioritizing. We have Jessica Gonzalez Rojas in Queens that's moving from the Assembly to the Senate, that the party is excited to get her into the state Senate and have a true champion.
What do you
That
mean?
has been
What do you mean
with
by
us.
that? Because I would have said if we had a time machine in 2018, you're saying the same thing
Yeah.
about Jessica Ramos. I mean, is there anything
The party helped to get Jessica Ramos
right?
elected. That has happened before. She's not the first person who the party has helped to get elected, and then they have shifted, and the party's stance with them has shifted, and
Aside
therefore
from
the party has
endorsing,
worked to get them out of office.
aside from endorsing Andrew Cuomo for mayor, where has she deviated from the WFP? I mean, she seems like a still pretty loyal, progressive vote.
I think it's not just the party who's not with her this cycle. You look across the board, and a lot of the community groups that once supported her are now with Jessica Gonzalez Rojas. You look at a lot of the labor unions, even as her being the labor chair, are coming out for Jessica Gonzalez Rojas. And so the tides have shifted, and we are looking to have a new person in this seat who we think will better represent the district, who will be a better friend, not just to the advocates, but to their peers in office and have much more support
Yeah, elaborate on
from
that.
their
What do you mean by
colleagues.
that?
Um,
Is someone an albatross? Are you suggesting?
what I'm suggesting is that, I think Jessica Gonzalez Rojas has this unique ability to be well liked and befriended by the entire system while being uncompromising, right? She was like a dog without a bone when she was fighting for universal school meals. She is a champion. She's the one who started the Moms Caucus and has been leading the fight on childcare and other issues. And so she is unwavering on the issues while also being a bridge builder to her colleagues in government. And we see that. I think we joke that she's like Miss Congeniality. Everyone likes JGR. and but we are really proud to move her from the Assembly to the Senate.
Okay.
So that Queen's race is one we're prioritizing. We're excited that our friend Yulene New is back on the scene. She was in the Assembly. Again, she was someone the party helped get elected the first time she ran. Well, actually the second time. The first time she didn't win in a special. And
Sure.
then she contended in the primary and won. And, she lost to Dan Goldman when she ran for Congress. But even while she was out of office, she still remained close to the party. We still worked on campaigns together. And now she's competing for Kavanaugh's state Senate seat in Lower Manhattan. And so we're excited to get Yulene New back into office and back to Albany.
Can we talk about that one for a little bit? Because
Yeah.
you mentioned in your previous race, in the Queen's race, about someone who is maybe not a loner in the legislature. And Yulene, while she had people who were big supporters of her, also, I think, could have been accused of alienating some of her colleagues. So are you concerned at all that she might have that same sort of problem, but maybe to a lesser degree, as Jessica Ramos, if she does get reelected to the Senate?
I think Yulene is someone who is great to work with, who is deeply committed to her district. She is on the spectrum, and I think we can't hold that against her in terms of social interactions. But at the end of the day, she is deeply committed to building progressive power. She's deeply committed to fighting for her community and representing her district well. And that part about her makes us excited for her to be in office and to be in the Senate.
Well, can you expand on sort of what you see as the policy differences between her and Assemblymember Grace Lee, who is kind of seen as the front runner running for this open seat?
Grace definitely has a lot more money, but we're the Working Families Party. We have been against candidates with a lot of money before, and that hasn't stopped us. In fact, Grace Lee challenged Yulene in the Assembly and had ran to her right and had raised more money. And every time that happened, Yulene continued to win. And so we are doing the work of how do you win elections? You talk to voters, you knock on doors, you build community. Yulene has a ton of volunteers coming out to every canvass on her behalf. The fact that she's been out of office for so long and can mobilize and get people back on the streets for her in such an amazing way speaks to how much her community loves her and how much they want to see her back in office. And so we're really excited to continue to work with Yulene. I'll give Grace a little bit of credit and say that, before when they were running for the Assembly, she squarely ran to Yulene's right. and was like as the not progressive in the race. And she's not trying to be the she actually is trying to move towards the left, we see in this race. And so I appreciate the movement towards the left, while also I think, her cross endorsements have us, questioning. She's with Dan Goldman, Grace Lee, and Yulene is with us with Brad Lander. And so those alignments matter to our coalition and show not just where you are, but where your friends in the movement are. And we are definitely not with Dan Goldman. So the party is proud to support Yulene and get her back into Albany and get her to the state Senate. And then the other race we're excited about is up in Buffalo, Sean Ryan's old seat. And so the party was happy to help Sean Ryan become the mayor of Buffalo. And that triggered a special election where the county chair gets to appoint the Democratic nominee.
Well, sort of. Okay. The county committee, in that case, gets to appoint. He probably exercised a bit of influence in that process.
Well, yes. So he basically appointed himself to be
with the support of the committee. With the support of the committee.
Sure. Yes. It's like your boss saying, do what I say, like, put me here.
Sure.
So yes, as the leader of the Dems, he had himself appointed in the special election. And so we're excited to back John Rivera, also another Assembly to Senate transition, to take over that seat. And so we would like to get Jeremy Zellner out and John Rivera, and someone who is actually more rooted and grounded in fighting for the people.
What does that mean, though? What does that mean from a policy perspective?
What people don't see is, like, yes, Jeremy was like the head of the Democratic Party, but how he enabled Republicans all throughout that county and made deals with Republicans, from a Republican sheriff and other things we have evidence of. Like, he has never been with us or for us, and the party had been fighting him locally for years. And he's not someone we want to be in the state Senate. And,
you don't think he was being pragmatic about Erie County politics and just trying to get the best deals he could, and not maybe trying to sacrifice good for the great or whatever?
I think he was being self-serving,
Okay.
which we've seen him do over and over again, and how he personally benefited from either him staying in power or him even getting donations from Republicans in a way that, like, served his personal interest as opposed to the interest of the people. So no, I don't believe it was about just the politics. I think it was about him. And we want people in office who are going to fight for our people and our communities. And that's what they're grounded in. And we don't believe Jeremy holds those values. And so we're really excited about those state Senate races.
Are you playing defense in any state Senate races? I mean, Jabari Brisport seems to be a continuous target for the Hakeem Jeffries faction, but I don't get the impression that he's super concerned about his primary.
Yeah, it's on our radar. Of course, we're going to come out and support Jabari, but we think Jabari is pretty good. We've had some, we looked at some information data on the district. So we're keeping an eye on anyone who's being challenged. But we think Jabari is going to be fine. But if we get nervous at any moment, we'll absolutely throw down on his behalf. I think, again, that speaks to the strength of the party and our ecosystem and what we built, and that to the point where, like, we often have to come to the defense of our elected officials and make sure they're able to stay in office. And, last cycle we were successful at defending 100% of the seats that were challenged to the right. There are a few more, I think, Greg Meeks, not Greg Meeks, sorry. Damon Meeks is being challenged up in Rochester. We're stepping up to protect him to make sure he's okay there. So we do have some defense work on our radar this cycle. But overwhelmingly, we think our incumbents are in good shape.
Any long shots in the state Senate where, if for some reason there is a huge progressive tidal wave in the primary where you're like, hey, we might be able to move into this open seat or knock out this Democratic incumbent?
Yeah, so not in the Senate, but in the Assembly,
okay.
There are a lot of things happening all over the political map. So, like, Dan Livingston up in Binghamton for Donna Lopardo's seat is one we're contending for. Wood County has another pick. Dan Livingston is our pick. The Vivian Cook seat in Southeast Queens, County has their pick. Latoya LeGrand is who the party is supporting. And Jabril Gilo he's in Canarsie, Brooklyn, challenging Jamie Williams.
She's still a Democrat?
Allegedly, she's a Democrat who was out here stomping for Curtis Lewa in the mayoral race. And so we're challenging her. And, I'll say the interesting thing about all of those seats is that they're not quite in the usual WFP turf, but they are in Black and Brown working class communities where we want to build. And so we're really excited to be on the ground, developing a new coalition, talking to voters and to the community groups in those areas and building relationships there. And so really hoping to pick up new turf for the progressive movement, for the party, and for us to have seats that tend to be controlled by county and tend to be more conservative Dems, getting our people and our champions elected there.
What sort of overlap has there been between you and the DSA local affiliates in some of these state legislative races, if any overlap?
Yeah, no, there's a ton of overlap where we're doing some races together. The Jennifer Raj Kumar Challenge is one that we're in it together. Samantha Katan. There are a number of Conrad in Harlem against Jordan Wright.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a number of races where Ian Huntley against Stephanie Zinnerman in Brooklyn, Christian Celeste Tate. So there are a number of races we are completely aligned, and the WFP candidate and the DSA candidate are the same, and we're working together to get our people in those seats.
What does that working together look like? Does everybody get along with each other and they're all nice? They don't accuse you guys of being secret Democrats and stuff like that?
We actually work well together, and I think the party has been always great at building a tent and a coalition that wins. And we're all more powerful when we're together. Like to be honest, we all know that. And a divided left isn't our best posture, but a united left creates a Zohran Mamdani moment. And so this is what the power of us working together can create, is not only defeating a strong opponent like Andrew Cuomo, but getting Zohran to become the mayor of New York City. And so we know how to work together. We know how to build alliances, and we all have different strengths that we bring to the table. And the thing about the party is, like I said, of just being around for so long, is that we have deep credibility with voters who I was literally knocking doors this weekend, and someone was like, I just vote for who WFP endorses. It's like, that's all I need to hear. And I've heard that across the state this cycle, is that for a lot of people, the party brand is essential and is such a credibility thing that gives legitimacy and validity to their campaigns. And so the party is there where we have our people out knocking doors. In some places, we're doing a paid effort with paid phones and paid mails and paid canvases. And so we are tiny but mighty. We are strategic. We know how to make a little bit go a long way. And so the electoral expertise of the party are coaching our candidates on some sort of regular basis based on their priority to the party, and making sure they're in a good position to win this cycle.
For 50 years, New York's Weatherization Assistance Program has helped keep families safe, lower energy bills, and make homes more efficient. Now, a proposal making its way through the budget process would slash funding by 60% and put children, seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities at risk. Weatherization saves energy, reduces costs, and protects vulnerable New Yorkers. Tell Albany, restore 10% of HEAP funding for weatherization assistance. Protect New York families, protect weatherization services. Paid for by the New York State Weatherization Directors Association.
Next year, we're going to have a new deputy majority leader in the Senate, and I'm curious if you have any skin in that game or have any suggestions for what Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins should either look for, or maybe you've got a specific name in mind in terms of who she should make her number two, or maybe even who you think would be best positioned to take over DSCC.
Yeah, well, I'll say the party has had a great relationship with Mike Gianaris for his time being in office. He literally represents a really progressive district. He overlaps with AOC and a lot of other friends of the party. And not only on the local side, but on the state Senate side, he was always the bridge to the movement leaders and constantly communicating with us around what was happening in the Senate. Someone we could always pick up the phone and call. And not to say Andrea hasn't been, like, she's been a tremendous champion in front of the party as well. But part of what she did, knowing that she's the leader and can't always talk to everybody, was like really designate that in this deputy speaker role that Janaris managed the left ecosystem and was in deep communication with us around what was happening internally. And so we definitely want to see someone who continues to hold that role, who values the left side of the movement, who is willing to be a partner, willing to be an honest communicator with us, especially behind closed doors. And so we have feelings and thoughts about who should be considered. I will say what I believe to be true is that, Mike Janaris was holding multiple roles, from deputy leader to, the Democratic committee stuff. And that the reality is it's likely not going to be one person who's going to hold all of the roles he was holding, and that it'll be divvied up amongst several people. And, from my understanding, that members who are interested in any of the roles were told to make it known to him, and that there's internally going to be some sort of process where they will decide. But yeah, this doesn't feel like a outside pressure game, and more like some internal organizing that's happening within the conference. But yeah, something we do deeply care about and are having conversations about.
You okay with the potential front runner, Jamal Bailey, being the next deputy leader?
The party's had a good relationship with Jamal. We don't always get along, but we can always pick up the phone and call. That's important when you don't always align with someone. He's someone I do have tremendous amount of respect for. I do question the hype around him being the front runner, and no offense to him, like, he is a great person, he's a great guy, but I also want to we all know that he is like Carl Heastie's, maybe mentee. And the Assembly and the Senate are very different bodies. And the Senate does not want to have any sort of appearance of being controlled by the Senate. And as much as Bailey is respected by his colleagues, because of his close connection to Carl, he is seen as an extension of the Carl Heastie Democratic machine and club. And I don't imagine the Senate wants to have someone so tied to the Assembly having a major role in the conference. So yes, he's on a leadership trajectory. I imagine he will have some sort of senior role. He's been around for a really long time. He's respected by his colleagues.
Really long time.
And also,
didn't he get elected in 2016 or 2017? Does that count for a long time nowadays?
It's relative. I think the other thing to look at is, what will likely maybe be a wave of retirements probably happening in the Senate. We saw a lot happen in the Assembly this year that kind of caught us by surprise. And so, I've been doing my research, and I think there are about 10 state senators between the age of 66 and 87 this year. I don't imagine all of them are going to run for re-election in 2 years. And so
Toby Ann Stavisky is going to prove you wrong. She's going to outlive us all.
I'm not naming any names. I'm not trying to be ageist, but I do imagine that a few of them might want to think about a different way to spend their senior years that don't require them to go to Albany.
Would Shelley Mayer be okay as a deputy then?
I love Shelley. Shelley and I go back to our education days.
Yes.
And, she is someone who is, I think, trusted by her colleagues. Again, I think the conversations are going to be layered. Like, who wants to be around for a long time, who wants to do that job. And then what I know to be true is they will think about the regional racial diversity of who they put into these roles. And so Andrea is already from Westchester. Will the deputy also be someone from Westchester? I don't know. Will it be someone, again, from New York City, particularly someone from Queens? Potentially, is there an upstate member? So I think there's lots of considerations around who they're going to pick, and especially if they're going to divvy up Janaris' role into more than one thing. I think they'll likely be looking to tick multiple boxes. Maybe someone from downstate, maybe some upstate representation. We'll see. And so I'm excited to see what happens, but also, we'll be having conversations with folks who we're friends with in the Senate to get their opinions on which are their colleagues they want to see elevated to this position as well.
Well, lastly, because we mentioned Gianaris, are you guys weighing in on that primary? Because I'm looking at both of the candidates' websites right now, and I don't see a WFP bug promoted there.
You don't see a WFP bug.
Was it couldn't choose one of your favorite children, or what's going on there?
Lots of layers of complication that made us stay out of that race. Also, like a lack of consensus.
Would you be happy either way?
Yeah, we would be fine either way. These are two people that we were, happy to work with. Bear, has a deep roots in community organizing, and we know her from her previous roles in advocacy.
Sure.
And then Raga, a PSC CUNY member, right? So one of the WFP affiliates, and has been an active member who's working with the party in Albany. And so lots of considerations. At the end of the day, I think also the party thinking about, like, we have a lot of priority races, like Brad Lander, Antonio Reynoso are our congressional members, our 3 state Senate races, plus like over a dozen assembly races happening. So managing that, like,
sure,
we're not going to come after everyone and do everything this year, and keeping ourselves focused on what's the main thing, what's our best contribution to changing the ecosystem, and how are we actually building more power. And so there's a point where you're just endorsing to endorse, as opposed to like, these endorsements are critical to changing the power dynamics in Albany. And that's the lens we look at this for. And that's why we're excited to be in some new communities in both, Brooklyn, Queens, and in upstate, around like getting more champions in office. And so Mo Brown in Syracuse is another one example of that, challenging Magnarelli. And so we have a lot of races that we're working on. Open seats are easier than incumbent challenges, but we're doing both. And we got our hands full, and we're excited to take this on.
Well, Jasmine, as always, I appreciate the conversation, the reflection, the insights, the candidness. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me.